Hello everyone, today I'm going to be teaching you a lesson on getting started with React. So React is an MVC framework made by Facebook, and it's very useful for creating a client-side application. What we're going to do to start is we're going to make a directory for our application. In this case I'm going to call it app. So if I go to app, the first thing I'm going to have to do is create an npm package. If you use the -y option, that will automatically create a JSON file that looks like that. So, the next thing we need to do is install a few dependencies. In this case, we're going to install them for development mode only, because we are only going to distribute our bundled application and not these dependencies. The first one we're going to need to install is Webpack. What Webpack is a module bundler that transpiles files and outputs them for the web, which is really useful for this assignment where we'll be writing React code rather than plain JavaScript. The next thing we're going to need, obviously, is React. After that, we're going to need Babel core. And what Babel core does is it allows us to use ES 2015 and ES 7 syntax in our files and have it transpiled into, just plain JavaScript that'll run anywhere. The next thing we'll need is Babel loader. Now, when you use Webpack, you have to specify how you want certain files to be loaded. In this case, we're going to use Babel to load all of our JavaScript files. That's what Babel loader does. The next thing we're going to need is to add some presets, which are going to tell Babel how we want our code to be transpiled. The first one is ES 2015, which, just because everyone uses that in their project. The next one is Babel preset React, and it should be pretty obvious why we're choosing to use that one. Alright? Now that all those dependencies are installed, we are going to make a folder where we're going to put all of our code. I'm going to call it client. You can call it whatever you want to. So now you'll see we have node modules, client, and package.json. In client, we're going to make an entry point to our application. And this is the file that's going to be loaded by Webpack. In this case, I'm going to say import React from React. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to know that the import statement works. The next thing I'm going to do is just something real simple, just logging something to the console, and that's it. Now we're going to go back to our app directory. By default, Webpack is going to look for a configuration file, and the default name it has is webpack.config.js. Now this is going to export a single object which represents the configuration for Webpack. Now you'll see I include path. The reason for that is that we're going to have to tell it some paths, and it's easy to resolve them in this way. Now the first key it's expecting is entry, and that's where it's going to get our entry to our application. If you'll remember, we just made that, so we'll do path.join dir_name, which is our current directory, client, index.js, and that's our entry file. Now it's going to need output. And what this says is, when you're done transpiling everything in here, I want you to put it here. And we're going to pass it a path first. And it's going to go into a folder called dist. And we have to also give it a file name. In this case, I'm going to call it bundle.js. Alright, now we are loading a file right here, and we're outputting it here as bundle.js. However, we also need to tell Webpack how we want to load specific files. In this case, we're only going to load some JavaScript files, and that is going to be specified in module loaders. The first thing we need to pass it is what the file looks like, so to speak. In this case, I'm using this regular expression, which effectively says, find me something with .js or .jsx, and that's the end of the string. Effectively, that means any file that will look like, I don't know, entry.js, component.jsx. It's just looking for those patterns. Next, we need to tell it which loader we're going to use. And you'll remember earlier we installed a loader for this called the Babel loader. Now there's one more catch to this, and that's that we have no need to transpile anything within the node modules directory. Alright, and we are actually done with this file right now, so. However, the next thing we need to do is tell Babel how to transpile our code, which presets we need, and all of that. And that is going to be, by default, defined in a file called .babelrc. This file is going to be formatted like JSON, and we can pass it presets. And you'll remember earlier we installed Babel preset ES 2015 and Babel preset React. Those are the two we're going to use here. Now, if I run Webpack, this should ideally create a dist folder, and it should create a bundle file within the dist folder. And you'll see that it did that right there. So let's go into the dist folder. And you'll see all of this information right here, which is just how it decided to transpile it. The only problem is we don't really have an index.html file that we can use. And it would be much easier if we had one of those. So what we can do is we can actually install something called Webpack HTML plugin. And we have to add it to our configuration. Like this. So first we have to require it, but then we also have to add it under a key called plugins, where we'll instantiate a new Webpack HTML plugin. And it's going to take a object with the options. The only option we are going to pass right now is called inject, which will tell this where to put the JavaScript. In this case, it's going to go in the body. So now we're going to try webpacking it again. And you'll see now we have two children, and one is bundle.js and one is index.html. Now we can open index.html in our browser, and you'll notice we have the console.log right here. So in the next lesson, I will be showing you all how to actually start creating the React application now that we have everything set up that we need set up. Thank you.